Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We hope you're doing very safe and well. Thank you so much for joining us, as always, on the Last Word on Spurs. If you're listening to the show for the first time, you can find us on iTunes or on Spotify and Audio Boom, across a range of different audio platforms. We're, of course, on Twitter at Last Word on Spurs. We're on Facebook and Instagram too. And as you guys know by now, we're also live on YouTube. Delighted to be joined by my, crazy instructor of this Conte crazy train. Lee McQueen is in the house. Lee, lovely to have you back here. How are you?
How getting on, Rick, lads? How you doing? Listeners and viewers, of course, now, as you say, we are live on YouTube. Yeah, doing really well. Arsenal ruined my weekend to a certain degree today. I was absolutely adamant that we were going to give them a damn good thrashing that they deserved. That was a bit of a shame. But look, the games are mounting up, and this crazy train is starting to pull carriage after carriage after carriage. We got to play some Premier League games, people, because we're going to be in a very, very dire situation, even when the big man comes back. So I'm sure we'll get into it, Rick.
Absolutely, we will. Also delighted to be welcoming two returning guests to the Last Word on Spurs. He's been on a few times already this season, so delighted to welcome back Adam from Sports Finance. Ads, lovely to have you here. How are you? Lovely to be back. Let's unmute you now.
Yeah, all good. It's nice. Thank you. Yeah, I agree with Lee. Actually, I was looking forward to us giving them a right old pasting today.
That's very polite, Ads, for you so far. We are still in the water.
We're warming up, right? We got to warm up.
We're warming up as we mean to go along there. Thanks so much again for all the comments so far. Also delighted to welcome to the show. It's been a while. Great to have Jay Pushkin back on the Last One on Spurs. Jay, how are you? Lovely to have you here.
Thanks, Ricky. I echo the thoughts of everyone else. I'm gutted that we weren't at the game today. But, you know, some of us have got bottles, some of us haven't. There you go.
Nicely put, Jay. Nicely put. Like I say, listen, there's only really one place to start. We're all expecting a North London derby today. Wasn't to be the case. And Arsenal, you know, they submitted a request on Friday evening to have that game postponed. Arsenal believed at the time they had reasonable standards to request that game to be postponed. They had, at that time, one COVID case. They had a number of players away at the African Nations Cup. And, of course, there was a couple of injuries to Mikel Arteta's squad that hit. But, I mean, Lee, to start with you, you know, having a couple of days to reflect on this before we do record, I still can't quite understand how Arsenal have been successful in that appeal. Can you understand how they've managed to get this game called off?
When it was first called off, absolutely not. My first kind of emotional reaction is to, for crying out loud, they are taking the PRSS. They've got one COVID case. We got kicked out of Europe, regardless of whether we want to be in the competition or not, and that's very subjective because some fans did and some fans didn't. But when we got kicked out of Europe for not fulfilling a fixture and a 3-0 win against us essentially, and getting kicked out of the cup on that basis, you then look at the Premier League and say, well, hang on a minute, what's going on here? They've got one COVID case, and it's not our fault or anybody else's fault, and certainly not the Premier League's fault, that Arsenal have signed a load of players that go to play for in the AFCON, right? And also, injuries are part and parcel of football. They had two players that they loaned out literally, 3 days before they got the postponement. So it's clearly could have been forward planned and thought about that. And actually, like I said before, like you said at the top of the show, one COVID case. Now, I think the initial reaction to all of that emotion is how dare they're taking they're boiling our PRSS themselves, aren't they? How much PRSS have they boiled from our perspective?
We're allowed to say piss.
Oh, we can say piss.
You on this show?
We get a family show, whatever. But yeah, I'm sure we can. But the reality is, when you actually look, and Ad, you're probably better placed to talk about this than me, but when you actually look at the rules themselves, Arsenal, to be fair, they ain't done anything wrong from that perspective. So I'm sure between Jay and Adam, you'll get into that a little bit more detail. But for me, as a fan, like we all are, I'm gutted. I'm absolutely gutted. That would have been absolutely rocking down there today. I said on the group, and you can paraphrase the group as well, Rick, right? Do you know what I mean? Look, cut and paste it. I literally said 2 weeks ago, there's not a chance in hell we are losing to Arsenal at home. It's just not going to happen. I was so confident, regardless of what happened against Chelsea and so on and so forth. And I just want to put the record straight as well, because I haven't been on for a week or so. And ever since we lost to Chelsea, which coincided with virtually the transfer window opening, the fans of this football club, including myself, including a lot of people in our Last Word on Spurs family in our group, they've gone mad. Everyone's just gone mental. It's like the wheels are falling off. We're working with a manager at the moment. He's in the top 5 managers of the world, right? And he is pulling up trees from our perspective. I think, look, at home, we've played 8, we've won 6, we've drawn 1, we've lost 1. We've scored 17 goals and only let in 6. We didn't lose against it. We haven't lost a Premier League game under Antonio Conte yet. Yet everyone seems to think that, you know, he's leaving tomorrow. We're all going to die. There's no one. I mean, I don't know where it's come from one result against Chelsea. Now, it might be because we're Tottenham, and I'm sure, you know, some of the viewers will put that in there. It might be because we're expecting it. It might be because we've got, you know, it's like every time we walk under a ladder or we see a magpie or whatever, you know, whatever you ain't got your lucky pants on or whatever it might be, you know, it's Tottenham. So we're expecting something to go wrong. But you've got to look at what's in front of you. You know, we need to just give our heads a little bit of a wobble here and say, look, we're 16 days into a transfer window that is also riling me as well. I'm not going to lie to you, Rick, and I'm sure we'll get into it. But at the end of the day, Leicester, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, City, United, West Ham have signed 0 players in exactly the same situation. All of them clubs I've just ruled off have signed no players in the transfer window. The only clubs that have signed players in the transfer window are the clubs that are in that kind of that bottom 12, bottom 13 at the moment. Now, people might argue at the toss with me and say, well, you know, you've got to get but I get it. And I totally get that we need to sign players. I absolutely, totally get that. But there's no way that within one result of being beaten by Chelsea, all of a sudden the wheels are falling off and we're having a laugh. Now, I've got a caveat that to say, but because we've obviously been beaten by Chelsea again since, and therefore there is a bit of a concern. But I was not concerned about Arsenal today. I was absolutely adamant that we was going to go and ruin them. And that's why I'm gutted that the fixture's off.
Jay, let's come over to you. I mean, listen, the game itself, as far as we understand from Arsenal's perspective, they had the one COVID case at the time. They had loaned 2 players out subsequently the week before that. You know, that a reckless tackle from Xhaka meant that they dropped below the threshold for available players. You know, on this basis, Jay, can you quite understand how the Premier League managed to come to the conclusion that this game should have been postponed?
I couldn't until Adam explained to me why. So I'd rather go to Adam first, and then after he said everything, I'll come in, because everything I was going to say is caveated by what Adam told me before. So Adam, I do listen to you, and I don't ignore.
Let's come to you, Ed. Love introduction for you. No pressure.
Because we're on here. But I think, yeah. So, like, I like it. Obviously, I was, and I suppose if you think about the bigger picture, right? If you look, and I suppose as Spurs fans, we're quite narrow, as every fan is in their view of what goes on, right? You look at your games, you see other games being postponed, but you don't really pay that much attention to it. And if you look, it's happened in about 3 or 4 other games. It happened with Leicester. I think it happened with Liverpool, didn't it? You know, the exact same thing. And the problem is, and I looked at, and I was talking to somebody, and they looked at the rules. What the rules basically state, because people are talking about Leeds and so on. Leeds have got loads of injuries, but no COVID cases. You can't apply for a postponement with the Premier League if you have just injuries or people away on the African Cup of Nations or whatever it might be. It's only if there is a COVID case. And if there is one COVID case or more, you can go to the Premier League and ask for a postponement, because that, accompanied with everything else, is a reason for that to be viewed as a postponement, because they look at COVID and they say, we've got 1 case now, but tomorrow you could have 10. There could be an outbreak and so on. So that's how they look at it. So the Premier League rule is an absolute joke. The ruling around that is ridiculous. And I said this before, and it's not overly popular, but Arsenal have worked it within the rules for their advantage, right? And I just said this on air, and I thought about this today before I came on here. If it was the other way round, if we had Lloris, Dyer, Reguilon, Skip, Kane, Son and Moura all out injured or on international duty and unavailable, and we had 1 COVID case, and we were playing tomorrow at the Emirates, where we never win with a full team anyway, and I would love us to get it postponed if it was the other way round. So I know we can call them bottle jobs and all this stuff, and it's all of that rivalry. But actually, if you take all of that hatred for them out and think, okay, well, if it was the other way round, would you want to go there away to them with 2 first teamers and the other 8 teams if there was a way you could get that postponed by bending the rules, which loads of other teams have done in the past few weeks as well?
Trouble is, Adam, we'd never get away with it, would we?
That's what I said.
Yeah, if it's the other way around, they'd make us play it, wouldn't they?
I tweeted that afterwards, and I said, what will happen is they'll change the rules now. We'll get a massive outbreak of injuries,
100%.
one COVID case, and get made to play and get tonked.
Yeah,
But
that's my exact point. So that's why I wanted Adam to explain it. The rules will be changed. There will be an outcry from Spurs, like rules were always changed after it's happened to Spurs. And I do think at the FA, at the Premier League, I would like to know who on that board is an Arsenal fan and who verified
It's a very valid point. It's a very valid point.
Can I just jump in on that, Jay? Because the really interesting thing is, right, I read about this new rule that I was just explaining to you. I read that all 20 Premier League clubs signed off on it. So it's got nothing. It's actually got nothing to do with the Premier League board. All the clubs have to sign off on it. I read that yesterday as well. So every club signed off to these rules.
Well,
yes, it wasn't the Premier League didn't enforce them on us. They put the rule in place, and all of the clubs agreed to them.
Okay,
so that includes us.
Let's go back to Spurs' statement and the way Spurs are treated compared to, I call them the Red Devils, the Red teams. There are 3 teams that run football in the UK, and that is Liverpool, Manchester United, and Arsenal. Everyone else have different rules, and they have the opportunity to play those rules for their own advantage. So Arsenal, they've done it. They've just played, but there's no sportsmanship in that. There's no integrity, and it's been written and manipulated by a side that if Spurs did that, our statement, what I was trying to say was we do it with the Leicester game, move the Leicester game and ask for that to be moved so we could play Rennes because we had this massive COVID outbreak and we got kicked out of the competition. We have been kicked out of the competition. We're the only other team to finish 4th and not get in the Champions League. We're the only team that has a somebody hitting their chest and bouncing onto their arm. We're the only team that dies. It's consistent. And it's that's why the paranoia comes in, Lee, about transfers and everything. It's because these things happen to us all the time, and we are laughed at. But really, we need to come out stronger. Arsenal have bottled playing Spurs at White Hart Lane. They have bottled it, and that's it.
Come here, Jay. Your Wi-Fi is flickering in and out at the moment. I don't know if you want to give I don't know if you want to give the router a bit of a reset. We're losing you in and out at the moment, Jay. Can you hear us? I think someone from the Arsenal Football Club is trying to fiddle his Wi-Fi at the moment.
Those 3 Red Devil Mafia he was talking about have come after him and cut him off.
Yeah,
can you hear us,
I can hear you. Can you not hear me? I've got you all in full vision.
You're back now, mate.
You seem to be back now. What we're going to do, Joe?
Sorry, what I said was a load of rubbish, so don't worry about it.
No. I mean, listen, a lot of people are agreeing with the points here completely, just that we're losing you in terms of the Wi-Fi at the moment. So hopefully that will filter itself out in the next few minutes. What I'm going to quickly do, Jay, is you referred to it. So this Spurs statement that they released yesterday from Tottenham read on the lines of, we're extremely surprised that the application has been approved. We ourselves were disqualified from the European Conference League after a significant number of COVID cases meant we were needed to reschedule a fixture, and our application to move our Leicester fixture was not approved, only for it to be subsequently postponed when Leicester applied. The original intention of the guidance here was to deal with the player availability directly affected by COVID cases, resulting in depleting squads that was taken together with injuries, which was result in the club being unable to field a team. We do not believe it was the intent to deal with player availability unrelated to COVID. We may now be seeing the unintended consequences of this role. It is important to have clarity and consistency on the application of this rule. And again, the club goes on to say that they'll once again send the food deliveries to local food banks, and all tickets will remain valid for this fixture. That's, of course, rearranged fixture. Lee, to come over to you on that point, I've got to say that the Spurs statement I thought was phenomenal. I think it was really, really well drilled, well thought out, and it covered a lot of the points that as fans we would have been feeling that frustration. Now I've had the chance to hear from Jay and Adam and make really valid points in terms of the nature of, number one, the game not going ahead, and number two, the rules behind this decision. Do you not think it's time, as we've all joked and said, the Premier League are going to probably update the rules? Do you think there needs to be more clarity for us as fans to know what the rules are, so we're not in this situation where we expect the game to go ahead and then 48 hours before it's pulled?
Yeah, of course, but the fans are always the last. I mean, without sounding like getting my violin up for the fans, but the fans are always the last to know. It is factual. One of our own, Chris Cowling, goes home and away. He goes to under 18s, under 23 games. Everyone knows, you listen, who goes on Chris's show and obviously in our show as well, where he goes. He goes everywhere. And, people travelling up to Burnley, like everyone that travelled up to Burnley and then bang, the game got called off an hour and a half before, whatever. It's a disgrace. So, I've got no sympathy for the people that are making the decisions in the boardroom at the Premier League around that. I've got all my sympathy goes with the fans. So yeah, of course there needs to be more clarity. I think the reality, like Adam said, if you take the emotion out of the Tottenham Arsenal thing, if this was Tottenham versus, I don't know, Brighton, would it be slightly different, even from an emotional perspective? The problem that I've got is Burnley called their game off for the snow. We've got Brighton and Leicester and now Arsenal. We've got 4 games in hand. It's ridiculous. We've been on 33 points for about 3 years. That's what it feels like. We need a bloody Premier League game. We need to get this momentum. I mean, a lot of people are saying about, Conte's, seeing a real Tottenham, whatever. I think he's really frustrated. Think about when Nuno came into this football club, he had to deal with Harry Kane and he had to deal with everything that was going on in the football club at that period of time. Well, Conte's come. He's had to now deal with this stuff. Now, like Jay said, it's kind of like always happens to us. Comments further up, I can't give you a shout out because they've gone up the thing now. But Lasagna Gate was the same thing. We had 10 players with food poisoning in that game, and we asked to get it postponed, and the Premier League said no. But this week, Arsenal have 10 players out and whatever, only one COVID case, and they're allowed to get it postponed. It just feels like it is. It feels like, maybe legally it isn't, and I'd come in, but it feels like it is double standards. Maybe that's just the emotion with the violin at Tottenham, but it always seems to happen with Tottenham.
Yeah, no, I think that's an emotional thing because, Lasagna Gate was, what is it? Is it 15 years ago?
I feel really old now you saying that, but probably you're not far off yet.
Football never got postponed then. So, I don't think it's right to compare it because what has happened in the past 2 years has been unprecedented.
But full COVID, though, Ad. Sorry to interrupt, but full COVID. And Arsenal ain't got COVID cases, they got one.
No, I get that. So obviously,
I mean?
what happened is, and Ricky's really right, the statement that Spurs put out was brilliant and it was true. And I think on the face of it, every club has probably taken that at face value as to what it is. And I can't remember who did it. I think it might have been Leicester the other week, a few weeks ago. I'm sure they were the first to sort of, they had loads of injuries and a couple of COVID cases and they got a game off. And then Liverpool did it, I think, or somebody else. So I think somebody's looked at the rules maybe with a lawyer and said, okay, well, actually, this is what it actually says. So let's put that in. And now all clubs have said, hold on a minute, we can bend the rules here, rightly or wrongly. It's bad taste. It's awful for the fans. It's not good for people travelling and stuff like that. But, when you're playing right at the top and you're competing, people keep talking about Leeds. I get that. But, when you're talking Tottenham, Arsenal, top fours on, the stakes are so much higher. And if you can go in, or with your full strength team or not, and you can manoeuvre it to your advantage, you do it. However crap it is for all of us.
Yeah. Jay, I've got to ask you, coming to it from a different perspective, we've seen this weekend, as we've seen comments on the screen there, Wolves have made many changes. They've had to field out a lot of youngsters, giving out debutants as well. Leeds again today. I know we had a comment a minute ago showing Leeds again playing a lot. I think they had a 15-year-old on the bench. So it feels like they're are clubs that are willing to go above and beyond to play. On that basis, if we didn't hear from Adam tonight on what he told us about the Premier League ruling, is there an excuse for Arsenal to have not played this, in your opinion, for you, Jay?
Well, before I spoke to Adam, I just think it's a joke. I think, but there is the rule, right? And they've manipulated it. It is ridiculous. They've bottled a game. They knew they were going to get stuffed. I see Piers Morgan saying we would have won with our reserves. It's like, how do we know you didn't turn up?
Yeah, play the game then. Play the game.
What this is like is, you remember at school you used to have the kid brought in the football. So he was like the god of the game, but normally he wasn't the best player. So you'd stick him in goal, and then he'd get upset, and then he'd run off with his ball. Well, Piers Morgan, like, oh, you don't want to play with me? I'm going to take my ball home. Like, seriously, it's a joke.
And are you worried though, Jay, about the integrity of the league? You know, like Lee said, we've now got.
I've been worried about it for years, Ricky.
Yeah.
Ricky, I think the game, there is serious issues in the game. I honestly have been worried about it for years. I don't think this is a level playing field at all. And I would just like to know if it went. So it's interesting about the Leicester thing, but getting Xhaka suspended and physically sending 2 players out on loan the day before you're playing the game, that is what stinks. It's not about the injuries or AFCON or anything. It is, what can we do to make sure we haven't got enough players to do this? Let's send 2 players out on loan. Let's sign it up before we have to, and then put in our thing. This manipulation. In business, you do anything to succeed. I get that. I do it in certain things where we've got to get something for a client. You just get it done. So I can see why it's happened. I can see how it's happened. Is it in the spirit of the game? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Fair play. It's not. It's not. Leeds, congratulations. Any Leeds fans watching this, well done today. West Ham, well done for playing all your games. We haven't even done our half of the league yet. It's mid-January. We haven't even done our 19 games. I think our 19th game is Leicester, isn't it?
Yep. It's crazy,
Wednesday.
Isn't it, really?
It's just ridiculous. Every game gets cancelled and they say, oh, well, you started it all getting COVID. Well, we haven't had one game cancelled because of us. Only Ren. And we got thrown out of the competition. So
absolutely,
it is what it is.
I mean, that's a bigger blessing in disguise getting thrown out. Can you imagine if we were still in that now with these 4 games to play?
Having to try and fit these in?
Would be unbelievable.
Absolutely screwed. Like we'd have had a qualification game as well. We'd have had to play the Rennes game and another qualification home and away. And bearing in mind, if we'd have got through with another home and away legs, what would be absolutely.
They'd have done what they did last season with Jose. Would have been playing Tuesday, Thursday, wouldn't we?
I must say,
it's another example of why it's different for Spurs, Tuesday, Thursday, and Chelsea. That would never have happened to Arsenal, Liverpool, Man U. Ever.
I found it funny how yesterday Man City got praised for, even with COVID cases, continuously putting a team out.
When you look at that squad,
you said, the
bench alone. You look at that squad.
Grealish are on the bench and Foden. Okay, we'll bring them in. Lads.
But you know what's funny as well? I mean, again, the problem is we've got the 4 games now to reschedule, and we have absolutely no idea when those 4 games are going to drop into. We are still in the FA Cup. We can't forget that. We are as again, we're fighting for the top 4, and again, I just wonder, Lee, the timing of those rescheduled games could make a world of difference to Tottenham in the bid for the top 4 and still pursuing the FA Cup. And this is what I feel, to me, again, damages the integrity of this league and of the competition this season, because we just don't know when these games are going to fall and the players that we're going to have available.
Well, you can earmark this as a bookmark, if you like, and we can replay it when it happens, because it will happen. That what will happen is that we will have to play every 2 days. They will make us do it. They will make us do it for no fault. And this is the point I think, Jay, that you're making as well, is that for no fault of our own, we will have to play every 48 hours to get these games back up to speed. And it's just not going to be in a situation that favours Tottenham Hotspur. But it is always a situation that favours the other football clubs. I mean, I'll give you an example, right? Just over the Christmas period, Manchester United, you're talking about the Red Army or the Red Devils, whatever you said before, Jay. Manchester United was the only club, along with Burnley, who've only played 17 games, by the way, because they're right in the mix. Manchester United was the only club to have a minimum of 3 days rest between every single game that they played over the Christmas period.
It happens every year, Lee. Lee, it happens every year. Sorry to interrupt.
It's no problem. So I think it's going to be tough. But look, let's look at it on the positive side, right? I think one of the comments said it earlier. Let's go play Arsenal when we got Son back and Dyer back and Romero back, and it works both ways. They could have put their full strength squad out today, and I still think we'd have beaten them. That is my mentality. I think we'd have turned Arsenal over whatever happened today. And it's not just about Arsenal; it's about the rest of the games. Look at the January transfer market. Everyone's going mental that we haven't signed anyone. Well, they wouldn't have played, would they? We haven't played a Premier League game in January other than Southampton on the opening day, which we couldn't have signed anyone for. So the reality of that situation, Watford. So the reality of that situation is that we haven't lost out yet. So look at it on the positive side. These games that we keep getting cancelled or postponed, if we can get them in, every 3 days, like Wednesday, Saturday, or however, Thursday, Sundays, however they're going to work it should be pretty good. Yes, we're out of the Carabao Cup, which is an absolute stinker. And yes, we're out of Europe, which some people like and some people don't. But that means that we can concentrate on the 2 competitions that we've left in. We've got a maximum games left of, like you said, 20 games left in the Premier League. And hopefully, another 6 in the FA Cup? Yeah. Is that how it would work out? Would it be 6 or 5 in the FA Cup? So hopefully that's the, we've got a maximum of 25 games left in the season.
It's not that many.
Not that many.
No, we're talking about rescheduling games. If you're not in Europe, we'll be playing significantly less than all the teams that are in the Champions League, and the postponements for some of those clubs are much worse than they are for us, right?
I think for me, Ed, what's key is where these rescheduled games drop. Do they drop in the middle of us going to play Chelsea, going to play, United, something Liverpool, United? I just think, for the integrity of the league, I think Spurs having those 4 games in hand, and I think lots of people have mentioned it, Spurs are a club that typically have not always thrived under pressure. How do we mentally cope with being this many games behind? I remember, of course, under Pochettino fighting for the title. But remember fighting for the title under Pochettino, we were playing on every Monday where we knew already what Chelsea had done, and we were trying to catch up.
1987, for those old enough, where we were in the League Cup semi-final, the FA Cup final, and we had 7 games in a week and a half.
Does it worry you, Jay?
We lost it all.
Does it worry you, Jay? Does it worry you, Jay? Does it worry you the backlog of games and where they drop for you, or do you just
not necessarily? Not necessarily, because Tuchel, I'm no Chelsea fan. Don't get me on this, but I actually respect a lot of what he is saying about all this. And he said yesterday he didn't want to comment because they've got to play Tuesday for a rescheduled game. Saturday, Tuesday is difficult. It's like a Sunday. It's not that much time, especially when they're traveling away from Man City. So if you're playing Sunday, Wednesday, I think it's an issue. But if you're playing Saturday, Wednesday, then good comment. Then if you're playing Saturday, Wednesday, it's better. So you're going to get. It depends what days they fit. So we've got Burnley, Brighton, Leicester, and Arsenal. None of them are in the European competitions.
Yeah.
So we should be able to play Wednesdays. There's no reason why we should have to play Tuesdays, and that's the big difference.
It does make you sick though when you think that we rested Lloris for this game, and it's been postponed. And I know, listen, it's hindsight, and hindsight's a wonderful thing. I'm just going to share a couple of comments we've had. Jerome says, I think that with the 4 postponements, it's a terrible situation for Spurs. We don't have the squad depth to play game after game. This could lead to more player injuries. We've also had a comment as well from Neil Robbins, who says the club statement was pathetic. We signed the rules. But I do think, Neil, on that point, I think the club were within their rights to lay out why there was such frustration. And I've got to, again, for me, I'd back the club 100% on their statement, because I think they made it very, very clear how they felt. And I know, actually, again, referred it tonight, the way Arsenal have used those rules to benefit them. And again, this is a frustration where I think, as Lee picked up on at the moment at the start of the show, Spurs have, again, under Conte, we've had a situation where we've come off the back to Chelsea, who are European champions. We've had the defeat there. Yes, there's frustration because we've played the likes of Doherty in that team and, of course, Galini. And it just feels that with the transfer window open and the lack of business so far, which we're going to come on to in a second, there does feel a real frustration and negativity around Tottenham. Like, as always, with a January window or a transfer window when Spurs haven't done any business yet, it feels like there's a lot going on. So I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll park the Arsenal chat there. And we are going to take our first break of the show for our listeners that are on audio. For watching us on YouTube, there's already over nearly 600 of you watching us live. Thank you so much, bearing in mind we have no game to review, but we do hopefully have a game to preview. But listen, it's that time of the show where I know many have been, again, frustrated, angered, excited by a January window, which so far we sit here recording on the 16th of January, and so far, nished, nil, zouch, 0, nothing in so far, both incomings and outgoings. Georgia, I want to start with you on this, because in the green room, as Lee McQueen likes to call it, you said, and James, not to get you going here, you said, I don't know what all this fuss is about for transfers. What's all the fuss about? So,
yeah, what is the fuss about? Why is everyone so obsessed with transfers?
Are you not so, Jay? If the squad I want to ask you a question. If the squad was to stay as it is now for the rest of the season, are you content that Spurs could still compete for a top 4 place under Conte?
Well, yeah.
With the current squad? Yeah.
Tell me a transfer. Coutinho scored the other day, right? He is a lot of money and he's very good. Apart from that, you tell me a transfer that's come into Spurs and made a massive difference from day one, continuous.
In a January window or December, or you mean
any window that has actually just come in, hit the ground running and gone. The summer window is massively important. January is where we spent loads of money in January. The only time I think we've ever done it was when we were on 2 points from 8 games.
I think
we brought back proven quality in Defoe, Crouch. Who else did we bring in? We brought in Chimbonda back. I think Cranshaw came back.
Come back, didn't he?
I think when you look at
Cabal come back.
It was literally everyone that Ramos had got rid of. I'm not against transfers. If we sign Dybala, if we sign Gareth Bale, whatever, those players are going to make a massive difference. And somebody like Traore, if he came to Spurs, would make a difference because he's Prem ready. I don't want to hear about all these players from Europe that take a year, 6 months, 2 years. Look at Ndombele. Look at Lo Celso. Look at Gil, Brian. Oh, he's wonderful. He's nothing.
I must say, though, where we stand right now, I know that from my perspective, Jay, I feel there's a real shortage in midfield. I think it's absolutely criminal that we haven't got an alternative striker to Harry Kane. I hate that word backup.
Frank Kessie, what's the matter? He's coming in the summer.
But that's the problem, is it's the summer. But what about right now? What about here and now?
What happens for Kessie then? You just ignore him and get some.
No, I'm not ignoring him. But what I'm saying is, where Spurs are right now, if Spurs are in a position where you want to build on some form of foundation here, Conte's just come through the door. Yes, he's done ever so well, but the reality is that if Spurs are, for me, going to push on as a football club, they have to use the window now to their benefit. They need an alternative striker to Harry Kane. You cannot rely on Harry Kane between now and the end of the season. It's impossible. It's not fair. He should be in that situation. You then look at right wing back. Right wing back for me, Emerson. Again, I'm very reluctant to criticise players that have just signed because I always believe they need a year and 18 months to settle. But here I am and look at myself and Ndombele.
You just made your answer.
But I still think, we still, for me, need some competition in that spot. We're all, again, of the opinion, I believe, that Doherty isn't good enough and isn't up to the standard. And I'll be honest, Adama Traore's stats this season doesn't fill me with great confidence, but I do believe a player with that ability and that pace will be able to create chances for Son and for Kane. I mean, Lee, let's start with you, January window. You're reasonably level-headed, the same as Jay. I know you probably do feel there needs to be some improvements to the club. So therefore, 16 days into a window, should Conte feel massively disappointed that he hasn't been in that word backed so far in this transfer market?
Well, look, let's take Adam's approach. I'll try and give the balanced view on this subject. So I'll try and take your approach. on it as well, mate. So when the January transfer window opened, the club's line and Conte's line, so we don't know what goes on when they're having their conversations. Look, and put it this way as well. Paratici and Conte worked together before Juventus, as we all know. They talk to each other every day. Now, we've seen it on All or Nothing that Levy's floating about everywhere as well and chatting. It's not as if they've never seen each other for 3 months and then all of a sudden they need to have this big meeting, right? You know, it doesn't work in that way. So they speak to each other every day. So put that in the top drawer. When you're looking at transfers, as the line coming out of club is that Conte wanted another extra 2 weeks or another month or whatever to evaluate his players, and he never got that listing of where his evaluation was until a week ago, if that. If you actually look at the date, it's probably not even a week. So he was already a week into the January transfer window before he even got his listing. Now, if you sit in the side of the fan base that has to back Conte, right? If you sit in that side of the fan base, right? Because for me, there's 2 ways, right? The first bit is back Conte. The second bit is just sign players because we are bloodthirst for signings, right? There's 2 things on that. So if you sit in the camp of back Conte, the reason why we haven't signed anyone yet is because we are still working on what Conte wants in the squad. So we are totally backing him, and we're working behind the scenes to get the people in. If you're the bloodthirsty signings people, which, you know, there's a lot on our group, and there's also, you know, I'm kind of getting there as well, being part of our group, I'll be honest with you know, just to get a signing in, then yeah, it is a concern. I think the biggest concern, and it's not a concern, my biggest worry is that Conte walks. We've already seen it on here, on the comments from people saying he's not being backed, he's walked. But why, just because we haven't got a signing, I'll read it out again because we're now talking about a subject. Leicester, Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea, City, United, West Ham have all signed 0 players up until this point. All of them have signed 0 players. Now, it's because people will say, January transfer window, it's a nightmare, you can't find people. That's also a myth, because the top 10 or top 7 January signings, top 10, thanks, Kevin, top 10 January signings of all time have all been very, very good. I think the worst signing in January was Fernando Torres, and he even scored the winner to get them into the Champions League final. So you could say that wasn't a bad signing in the end as well.
I think obviously Van Dijk's the standout one from Liverpool. I think obviously they'll say.
Yeah, but it didn't happen. Sorry to interrupt. It didn't just happen in the January window. They worked on that for 18 months before.
Of course it did, yeah.
And it took them to the January window to be able to fund it and get the right deal. It's not like people just think, sorry to interrupt, and Lee, please carry on, but we have a squad. We have a squad of players, and that is full. Now, that is the issue of what we bought for Nuno. We have to get rid of players, notices within the squad. Now, those players will go. There will be 3 or 4 players who will leave us, but we haven't had the right offers yet. And then 2 or 3 will come in. I'm not saying I want the squad to be like this. I just can't stand it. It's the 16th of January. There's another 15 days left. It will happen. You've just got to be patient. If I was Conte and I read all this, I think, what do I want to be at this club for? They're a bunch of entitled. It's the entitlement. Just wait. Just be patient. It will happen. They know what they're doing. I'm not talking about Levy. I'm talking about Paratici and Conte. We've got the best stadium. We've got the best training ground. We've got the best bloody manager we could ever get. Levy ain't bad, right? He's sorted all that out, and he's got Paratici to do all the work. He's not been brilliant with the signings, but the signings will come. We just, as a fan base, need to relax a little bit and hope that they know what they're doing. At the end, if we haven't signed anyone by the 31st of Jan, everyone will explode. But that's not going to happen.
Can I ask you though, Lee? Many people will be watching the show right now and will think to themselves, "Well, hold on. You're saying again, end of January we'll judge them on this." But many will argue that. I'm saying many will say that we should.
Because I didn't say that.
I'm not. Just to be clear, not saying you said that. I'm saying that many people will say that they'll be judged at the end of January. But my point is just to come at you and be very clear here that many people will feel that Spurs have already had one of their biggest weeks of the season in which they've played a Carabao Cup semi-final to Chelsea and they've not made any signings that could have maybe impacted that game. Now, I'm not sitting there saying that bringing a player in would have automatically hit that ground running, but I think it's just a case of, intent, statement. Antonio Conte's here. Paratici and Conte have been working on transfers, not just during the January window, but before this. They've been planning this for months. So there'll be that argument, why have Spurs not done any business? And we're already halfway through 16 days into this window. As I'm going to come to you in a second, I can tell you're itching. Just want to get this from Lee.
Yeah, for sure. So look, it looks like to me that Adama Traore, for whether you're in the Adama camp or you're not in the Adama camp, and I'm not personally, but I'm getting on the train because of that whole let's just sign some person, which is quite ridiculous, but that's the reality. It looks like Adama is the man that they've earmarked to come into the football club. Now, if they'd have signed him on January the 5th, he was cup tied. See, he couldn't have even played in the Chelsea game anyway. So there's so many different factors on that. I absolutely agree that we need to improve the football team and the squad. I think anyone that's got half a brain will say that we need to improve the football team and the squad. And I would earmark that we need 4 positions at least. But is it realistic to think that we're going to get all of them in January? And is it realistic to think that, even we're going to get 1 or 2? I'm hearing from some people, some contacts that I have, that we're still looking at 2 or 3 is still going to be looking at coming in. But the thing with Tottenham is, and maybe this is because we haven't done business in the past and Levy out and link out people and all that kind of views are because we don't do it. And I'm not disagreeing with that, but we don't air our laundry in public essentially when it comes to transfers. We always try and keep it tight-lipped as much as possible. I mean, I know for a fact there's information behind the scenes that we release when we will release it, but I know for a fact that there is stuff going on. And when people say we need to go and sign Dybala, we need to go and sign Vlahovic, we need to go. If Man City turn around and go, I fancy Vlahovic, see you later, Tottenham. Like, he ain't coming to Spurs because of the factors that, and Ad, you are in sports finance, right? This is totally your subject. So these deals take a long, long period of time, and it's not just about bang, getting it going. Having said that, you look at Villa and you go, dingo, 25 million quid. Coutinho, why can't that be Spurs? Would they have improved the squad? Probably.
Come on, let's have your opinion.
Oh, I've got 16, a lot to say now.
16 days in, Ad, nothing in, nothing out. Are you surprised? Tell us your thoughts.
No, if you look at the January transfer window historically, forget Spurs, nothing happens early. It always happens at the end for most teams, right? The stuff that happens early, Newcastle are bottom of the league, second bottom. They've got billionaire owners come in. They have to act, otherwise they're down. So they're going to act early, right? Villa, the guy wanted out at Everton, the left back, easy signing for somebody that would probably be in the way, and the same for somebody like Coutinho, right? 90% of the January transfer windows get done at the end. Most of the time, they're not good deals. There are the ones, like we said, like Van Dijk and Fernandes and so on. But these are ones, right, where there are big money involved for big players, right? Which we're not going to do. We're not going to go and spend 80 million. So what you have is let's take Traore as an example. Because it's the January transfer window and it's such a small period of time, you've probably got 4 clubs in like a domino, a bit like buying a house. Wolves have said to Spurs, right, done deal for Traore, and we've agreed everything with him. That could have happened, but Wolves won't let him go until they sign a replacement. And then the team that Wolves are buying their player off won't. So you might have everything done, but it doesn't mean it can conclude until everything else is in place. So sometimes things are out of your control.
Can we afford to wait, though, Ads? Can we afford to wait?
If you take the Traore, if you take the Traore one, let's say they've said, right, 20 million. If we say to Wolves, okay, we'll give you 30 million to give them as now, they're still going to say, wait. It's only when you do these Van Dijk, these big, massive deals that things can move. Look, Traore, I'm on the fence on, right? I just make a point about him, right? Because I've watched Spurs this season, and I get everyone's point about he can't final ball. But yeah. I went to Watford and I watched the ball go out to Emerson about 85 times.
And that's not exaggeration either.
No, and probably most of the time he was actually unmarked. And then the other time
That's what
when
was
he
scary,
did have,
wasn't it?
Yeah, and then the other time when he did have a man near him, he couldn't get round him. And I just was sitting there in the Chelsea game thinking, Traore would get round them. And if you gave him that much space, I think he would be able to deliver better to somebody like Kane and Son. And I get what most people say. However, I'm sitting there thinking, hold on a minute. If Conte wants Traore and if Conte thinks he can do something with him, I'm quite comfortable with that. You know, and I'd say he's a better judge of a footballer than we are as fans. You'd like to think that if Traore goes to a much better club and he's got Kane and Son running in front of him, his delivery will be better. Wolves don't score a lot of goals anywhere. If you watch them, they hardly score.
No.
And that might not be because his delivery is bad. It might just be because they don't have Kane to get on the end of it or Son. So you never know. So
Ad, what do you...
I would be delighted if we signed 3 players on January the 1st. I just know that it is not going to happen. The guy whose name I can't pronounce, the striker from Fiorentina, as an example,
Vlahovic.
It will never happen in January unless somebody goes and gives them 90 million. It won't happen because they've said they don't. He's their main top goal scorer. It's in the same way we will not sell Kane to Man City in January. Those deals happen in the summer unless you pay massive money like the Torres deal when he went to Liverpool and Van Dijk. Other than that, it won't happen. So people saying we should sign him, it won't happen. People do not sell their best strikers in January, midway through a season. So you normally fix holes with what you can get and add a bit. I still reckon we'll end up with 2 or 3. And Jay's point, which is very, very rare for Jay to make a good point. Very, very rare, may I add.
He's been waiting to say that all night, Jay. You know that.
I have. Because I say it on Twitter and he ignores me, right? So his point is true, right? It's not always about getting players in. Everyone goes, oh, you've got to sell to get in. It's not about that. If you've got these 3 or 4 players that Spurs want to get out, you don't want them to still be there when you bring in 3 more players. If we bring in 3 players and don't get rid of them, Ndombele, Bergwijn, whoever it might be, you then have 5 players who aren't in the squad at all, who are there. And it's a bad thing for the club, for the atmosphere and so on. So there's also that plays a part in it. If you can't shift those 4 players, not necessarily for money, but because you need to reduce the squad size to what you want it to be. So you've got you don't want to have 45 players in your squad.
No, of course you don't. And you're right. It is about having a squad that's competitive and feels that they are going to be part of the team.
Everybody thinks that we ain't got money. Everybody thinks...
I got told right when Pochettino signed, not after he'd been there a period, we won't sign anybody. He doesn't want to sign anybody until he gets rid of all those players.
We saw it, didn't we? The Kabuls,
that's exactly what happened.
The Adebayors, the Lennons, the Fazios.
All of them out, a few in, and then bring the youth through. And then it makes it a much better harmonised squad.
And look what happened. And look what over that 5-year period, right?
So there's a lot more.
There's a lot more. I love this debate because the bloodthirsty signings people, which I am on that bit of that train. To be fair, I'm down the side with Ricky on this. It is more complex than that. But most of us think, we ain't got no money. Levy and not give it sanction any money. We're not backing Conte. But the reality is because you don't want to score a 45, like we've just said, Adam. Conte
isn't going to come out in a press conference, people are flapping about and go, right, when I came to the club, I demanded money and I demanded everything I want. And if I don't get it, I'm walking out. Never going to come and say that. He's never going to come out and go, I've got a massive list of 25 players that I want because this lot are all crap and I need to get rid of them. He's got to be diplomatic, right? But lay a tone, which is what he's doing. We've got to improve. Of course, they'll be looking at players.
Yeah. I must ask Lee for you.
Look who Conte did sign at Inter. So you've just got to look at what he did. He signed Ashley Young.
And Moses again.
Absolutely. What would our fans say if he did that? Trust this manager. He knows what he's doing.
Imagine Twitter if he signed a Moses-like player. Imagine it.
This is Traore. But
Traore is polarising opinion. Jay, I want to come over to you in a second, but before I do, Lee, for you, where you are trying to be fair balanced, and I know you still want the transfers as well. I'm going to ask you a tough question now. What for you would be a minimum requirement or a minimum expectation that you want this Spurs ball to do before the end of the January transfer window? What positions need to be filled, in your opinion, for Spurs to be able to compete for a top 4 spot?
I'm muted. Sorry, it's just come up. I think. Look, thanks for asking that question, because we did this on the group a week or so ago, didn't we? My dream window, right? My dream window, my bloodthirsty signings window, right? Let's have some fun. I'm going with Adam. Right? I'm going with 4. I'd love to sign Vlahovic, De Vrij, Wijnaldum, and Lamptey, right? Or Traore. Lamptey or Traore. It's a dream window. So
Lamptey's amazing.
Yeah,
I am
and
the
the
train.
Cucurella, he's brilliant. They're left back.
Yeah, so that's my dream window, my happy window. So my happy window, so my kind of, you know what, I'm happy with this. Well done. Would be to sign Traore, James Ward-Prowse, or even a Neves from Wolves, and somebody like a Pau Torres, because we've been linked with him. And like both Jay and Adam, you said sometimes these deals are done in the previous summer and they come over in January. I could potentially say that would be my happy window, but would be 1 player short. My poor window, right, would be.
Is this the Spurs window
that we've never heard of? Yeah, this is classic Tottenham. A lone striker that we've never heard of, an up and coming central midfielder that is going to take 2 years to 3 years.
I think someone said that might be Pape Matar, but yeah, I get your point. Yeah.
Well, yeah, bring him back from loan and here do that would be horrendous. And then an up and coming centre back, just like Joe Rodon, right? So this is the reality. And this is no offence to Joe, but we were linked so heavily with Skriniar, and throwing his blood, and then we go and buy Joe Rodon, right? We were linked so heavily with Dybala, and all these players, and then we go and get Vinicius. I mean, this is classic. So for me, my happy window would be 3 players in Traore, JWP, or Neves or Pau Torres. My dream window is what I said, 4 players in. I think that's unrealistic. That's my dream. My poor window would be 3 players that no one's ever heard of. That's classic. Or none of them have got Premier League experience. Because this is the problem with Tottenham. And I promise I'll shut up in a second. The problem with Tottenham is we are always going. The profile of player that we go for is young and up and coming, so we have a sell-on value. Yet we don't sell on any players anymore. We don't have our setup isn't about selling on our players. It's not like Leicester, like they go and sign Kante for like 600 grand or whatever, and then sell him for 30 million and go and find Ndidi to replace him. And they've never really missed Kante, if I can say that, even though he plays 2 positions, if that makes sense. We haven't got that model. So this whole sell-on value is a load of crap. It is a load of rubbish. What we actually want right now, where we are, and Jay, you said it earlier, best stadium, best, all that stuff, best manager, we need to go and buy 3 or 4 players that can walk into this team, improve the first 11 and get us into the top 4. And I will balance it out, because I do get a lot of grief about people saying that I love the board and this, that, and the other. This board has financed this football club for 20 years, and for 20 years we've won 1 trophy underneath their tenureship. And when we had an opportunity to get into the top 4 under Harry Redknapp, we go and sign Saha and Nelson. I mean, it says it all. We've done it time and time again, and this is the time for us to turn around and say, well, Paratici is one of the best directors of football in the world. We're one of the best managers in the world, the best everything else in the world. Go and put some wedge down and sign some proper players. The recruitment at Tottenham Hotspur has been absolutely woeful over the last, in my opinion, 4 or 5 years. And Jay, you said it right at the beginning of the show. When was the last time Tottenham signed a player that you went, wow, that is amazing? About
No.
Midfielder that we're wowing about is for our academy. Our striker that we're wowing about is for our academy. Lloris has been, with the football club, testimonial times 10 years. You look at the spine of that team. Dele Alli cost 5 million. He was a kid when we bought him, and he's not pulling up trees now, but he was. The recruitment that we've done in the past under the Paul Mitchells and when we signed Eric Dyer for 3 million quid and so on and so forth, that was a good time. We signed Wanyama, I think. Vertonghen were a little bit before that, wasn't it? Toby Alderweireld, 11 million.
And you're right. There was a time when the recruitment was great. And again, last few years, I don't know, you want to come in. I just want to go to Jay quickly. Jay, on this point about transfers. Listen, you made your stance on it, Jay, you know, very clear when we touched upon this subject. Cracker says on there, we need a couple of wiser Prem experienced players. For you, I know you're not going to get too carried away on transfers, but in your opinion, Jay, what do Spurs need for you to feel in a position where Spurs can push on as a football club under Conte, albeit in this window or the next window? What do you think we need?
Oh, well, everyone knows what we need in the fact that we need a striker, because having one striker at the club is ridiculous. You know, Llorente came in. He wasn't the big, swirling, fantastic name, but he did a job for us. I remember when Kane was out with his ankle, and he got us through many games, scored a few goals, did fine. And we never replaced him. But he was somebody we hadn't replaced from before. So I think we need somebody like that, somebody that is exactly as Crackers said, a bit of experience, Prem experience. Chris Wood going up to Newcastle for 25 million was an interesting one, because I know for a fact we were talking to his people last summer. I don't think he's the right player, but he has got Prem experience, and he's that big guy. I remember, sorry to go on, I know I'll be quick, but I remember a game where I think it was Brighton at home. I can't remember. We were at Wembley, and Llorente came on for that. Burnley at home it was. Llorente came on for the last 5 minutes. We whacked it up to him. He headed it down, and Eriksen scored the winner. And it's just that plan B which we don't have. So he can come in and help Kane when Kane needs resting in the FA Cup or in the Carabao Cup. But somebody that can really make a difference when they come on. Vlahovic would be a dream, but he's everybody's dream out there at the moment. So we need him. I think we need a career. We never replaced Eriksen. And the last time I was on Last Word on Spurs, I was backing Eriksen when you lot were all slagging him off. Not you personally, but the people I was on with. And because he is massively missed, and we've never replaced him. Lo Celso was supposed to be. He's nowhere near him. Eriksen was a god of football. He was the closest we ever had, better to say it, to Hoddle. He's not in Hoddle's league, but he could do the things that Hoddle could do. So we need somebody that can do that. We need a right back because Doherty hasn't worked out, and we need a left-sided centre back. So we all know what we need, and we need Hugo to have signed that contract.
Absolutely.
So, because if he goes, Galini's nowhere near, as we saw against Morecambe the other day. So that would be, but that's all going to happen, whether it's now or in the summer. I hope it's now. And I hope we get rid of the Lo Celsos, the Ndombele's, the Doherty's, or all the, sorry, Doherty, I know it's your birthday, but, get rid of the players that are surplus to requirements, that aren't playing, and we bring in some reinforcements. And I'm sure it's going to happen. But whether they'll be the dream ones or whether it's Lee's middle or lower tier 3 signings, I'm not too sure. But I have faith that Conte will get what he wants, because you don't bring in a manager like Conte and that amount of money and that amount of staff. We all run businesses. We all know you do not invest in that and then not give them the tools to do their job. You just
I hope you're right, Jay, only because I know many people felt when Mourinho was here that would have been the similar notion. Faz on the screen says, assuming we get to January the 1st, assuming we get to 2nd of Jan, who do you think will get in? Ad, has come over to you because we have seen links to the likes of Lingard, more of a summer transfer, that one. Jay's already thrown up, like to Kessie, Vlahovic has been mentioned, of course, Adama Traore is the main one. Do you have anyone, Ads, in this window you'd like to have earmarked to bring in that's going to make a difference for the rest of the season?
I think Traore will happen. I think Lingard could happen because, people are saying, we're going to sign him now on a pre-contract, but he's free, isn't he? So you could give Man United something for him. I think everyone agrees on the same positions, right? It's centre back, it's right wing back. I agree with Jay. I've always, central midfield, we're desperately short and a striker. I don't think there's any chance a striker comes in January.
What's his comment?
Mosey there saying he's take Gregor's Raziak. I mean, we're not that bad, surely. I know we're not with this. We're not ending Jan just yet.
I think a striker will come in the summer, because I don't think they'll punt. I think they're going to want, that the guy at Fiorentina. I think they're going to want him. So I don't think they're going to go for somebody else. in this window.
Is Ericsson, is that sailed now? I mean, we're hearing that reportedly Brentford and Newcastle are amongst those that are interested.
I can't see it. He had a massive falling out with Levy, and that was one of the reasons why.
We can't forget he did want to leave the football club. We can't forget that. He wanted to leave.
Because there were big issues internally with stuff that went on with leaving, him talking about a new deal, and it was like, that's it. So that's not going to then come back and go round another way. And frankly, if he came in anyway in January, his fitness is going to be miles off where it needs to be to play in the Premier League. I'd absolutely love him for sentimental reasons, but just 2 points. Interesting one, just on signings. So I thought about this a lot after the Chelsea game when everyone basically said what we're doing about Galini and all that. I genuinely think they sat down and they said, look, we're probably going to lose to Chelsea, probably going to go out. We got Arsenal on the weekend. Let's rest players, make sure they're fit, beat Arsenal, and then we're a point ahead of them with 2 games in hand. Get top 4. It's well within our grasp. It changes everything. And I know people always go on about, well, we want to need a trophy and blah, blah. I get that. I'd absolutely love to win a trophy. If you win a trophy and you finish 7th, what Conte will be able to attract and the money we can spend if you're 4th in the Champions League is significantly greater. Stefan Everson.
Anderton, Teddy and Stefan Everson.
Yeah, they were the glory years.
Game changes.
Yeah. So I reckon we'll end up with 2, possibly 3. And I think when you watch us, you know, when you watch us, right, what I notice is the amount of times we actually get, even if we're not playing that well, into really, really good positions, and our final ball is terrible most of the time. So if you can just correct that with a couple of players, we could be significantly.
But I think it's a fascinating debate. I agree with where we are. I think we're all on the same page. I think that, you know, it's getting the people in that are going to make a difference, not just the signers. This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying to the listeners, to the viewers. If we went and signed the tier 3, right? You know, some of these names that are coming out, I mean, brilliant Gaza, but you know what I mean? But if we went and signed in the tier 3, yes, it would be signings, and yes, it would be like, oh yeah, we've spent some money, we've got some players in, but they'll still be shit. They don't improve us. They don't improve us, and that's the problem. Now, I agree with Terry Harley. He put a comment up earlier that he thinks Vlahovic is the perfect partner to Kane. It allows Kane to get away with dropping deep when he needs to, because when Kane's effectively dropping deep, gives us options. If we're playing a 3-5-2, we can have Vlahovic and Kane up top, or Vlahovic and Son with Kane in behind, or Vlahovic and Kane with Son in behind. I think he's a perfect player. I can't see him in a red shirt. I can't see him playing for a Manchester. I can't see him in one of them red shirts, Jay. I can see him in a Tottenham shirt. And what I would say is, I totally agree with you, Adam, that people ain't going to sell, Fiorentina ain't going to sell their star-studded striker, but they will if the money's right. And the difference between Tottenham and, for example, City and Chelsea is if they want that player, like these top signings that we was talking about earlier, they will go and buy them. They will just go and put the money on the table and go, have that. They'll give the agent the 7 million fee, give Vlahovic 150, 160 grand a week, and give them 75, 80 million euros, and that job is done in January. And the problem for Tottenham is if we don't go and do it, which I agree with you that we won't, then there's going to be 3, 4, 5 different clubs circling around this summer. You've also got to put into I know we've got no link whatsoever, and it will never happen that Haaland comes to Tottenham or Mbappe comes to Tottenham. But them 2 players alone moving somewhere makes the merry-go-round really tick, doesn't it? And actually, if you're a player like Lingard, who wants to get fit, wants to start playing for the World Cup, his World Cup plays, maybe you do move in January, but equally, maybe you don't, because you want the money, because you know that you've got the pick of the clubs when you're a free agent. The same as Gareth Bale, the same as, you know, all these other players, Frank Kessie that we're talking about. Why would Kessie quit now, come to Tottenham in January when he's got the pick of most clubs in Europe on a free in the summer? It's just not. And also,
we have to say, he's not aware of his Spurs will get in the Champions League. Again, we have to make that point that, you know, at the moment, for a player to sign a pre-contract with a club, you're going to be fairly confident getting in the Champions League. But I just want to sum this up because
I'm not trying to, again, just quickly, I'm not trying to stick up for the football club or, you know, whatever, but these reports of Conte's going to walk and all this sort of stuff. I mean, look, I love some of the people. In fact, I won't name them. I'll just say it. Sky tried to flog Poch so many times, yes or no, right? Then they tried to flog Kane so many times, yes or no, and they couldn't do either. Guess what? They're trying to flog Conte now. I mean, you couldn't make it up what I was listening to this morning. You just think to yourself, this is consistently fueled. And what we've all got to remember in this world is that the yellow breaking news ticker, the scrolling ticker that you even have now on the bottom of your screen, it gets us all excited. The big breaking news, there's some transfer news, and everyone's like, oh my, it's a media frenzy, and it's brilliant. And I love it as well. I'll get my yellow tie out like Jim White used to. But the reality is it good for our club? Is it good for our Tottenham? And that's what we've got to look for. 4 players we need. Most of that's going to be done in January. But I still think, I agree with Adam and Joe, I still think we'll get 2 in. And I think one of them would be Adama. I think that's a done deal.
I'm just conscious, timely. I know, obviously.
Sorry, I know. Sorry,
for you personally, I'm hoping that we're all good. Please let us know if it isn't good, Lee, as well. I'm just conscious, guys. Obviously, we've had a heavy debate on those players coming in. What we haven't really touched upon is those going out. I just want to come to you, Jay, because listen, I probably know already your feelings on the likes of Lo Celso, Ndombele, Doherty, Dele Alli. This feels like you said, Jay, as big a window for bringing players in as it is for moving those players on. For the likes of Ndombele, who we know from friend of the show, Alistair Gold, is now training on his own. It's part of what we understand to be some form of conditioning for him as well. But how concerning is it, Jay, to have those players, like you said, around the dressing room, those that we can't move on? How much does that damage the football club? The likes of Dele Alli and Ndombele, Doherty, that aren't getting regular football. Is it just as important in this one to move those players on, Jay, for you?
Okay, so there's a bit of info I can tell you about Ndombele. So the reason why Aurier and Sissoko have gone is they were being told, so they were thought of as being a bad influence on Ndombele. And if they were out of the squad, he would knuckle down, work harder. It hasn't happened. They have spent best part 60 mil, 55 million on him. The attitude's not there. He's never wanted to be at the club since the day he walked in. I don't know why. I don't know if it's England.
You believe that, Jay? From the day he walked in, he didn't want to be here?
No. He never wanted to be here.
I mean, that backs up by the repeated transfer requests on every window. So that backs that up.
He's wanted to leave from the very beginning. So he made a mistake. Now we're stuck with a £60 million or 55 million, whatever it works out, mistake. So we need to let him out on loan. He needs to go out on loan. Hopefully somebody comes in for him, and he moves on. And then he can, while he's on loan, he builds up his transfer fee, because I think he's still got 2 years left or 3 years left on his contract. So that's the best way. I can't see us. I saw some reports saying that we would sell him for 30 million. I just can't see us taking a hit like that. Lo Celso, I think, is just weird, because you watch him playing for Argentina. And he links up with Messi superbly. And then when you watch him at White Hart Lane, he's just falling over every 5 minutes.
Mm.
There is a player in Lo Celso, and I also think he could do with a loan. But that's 100.
Lo Celso to PSG, Jay. Yeah, here's one. Breaking news, people. Lo Celso to PSG, right? Hook up with Poch, who signed him for us, who can link up back with Messi, who does such an amazing job in Argentina. And we'll take Wijnaldum. Right, we'll take Wijnaldum, proven premium central midfielder that can do the business, goals and assists. What's everyone working on behind the scenes here? Come on.
I must ask, Jay, you as a businessman, I must ask you, for what Ndombele is costing us at the moment? I know John put this to, we had Lyle Thomas on from Sky Sports last week. Jay, would you personally let Ndombele go on a free to save those wages that we're going to have to pay out for the next 3 years?
No. No. He's your biggest investment. He's the biggest thing you've bought.
But it's not going to work, is it, here? It's not going to work here, is it? As you know.
Yeah, but
he has to go out on loan.
Even if you let him go on a free, another club has got to make up his wages in full.
But what I mean is that we at least we get him off our wage book and having to pay those wages for the next 3 years.
Yeah, but if you say if he's on the 200 grand a week, what is that? 2488. That is what 860. That's about 30 mil, right? Something like that. If you let him go on a free, and another club says, right, okay, where's he going to go? He's not going to go to England. He's not going to.
No, but the problem with Ndombele is he has, and Lee, we've discussed this many times. The problem with Ndombele is he has these massive expectations where he personally thinks he should be playing for a Barcelona, a Real Madrid, or a Bayern Munich.
Even if you're him as a footballer now, what would happen is if you said, right, I'm cancelling your contract, and you can go, or not cancelling contract, you can go for free.
Yeah,
he's saying, well, I've got £30 million guaranteed here. If you're only offering me 100 grand a week, someone's got to make up that 15 mil. So the transfer fee is almost an irrelevant point. To move a player, to get a player to go, and Ndombele has got guaranteed 30 million quid. So somebody has to make that up to him somehow. So a club has got to come to Spurs and say, we'll give you 30 mil, 20 mil, 40 mil, whatever it might be, or nothing. And then they got to say, okay, and Ndombele will give you 100 grand a week. And then he'll say, right, Spurs, if you want me to go, you got to give me 15 mil, pay out the rest of my contract. So it's never going to work like that. And that's why people just say,
you can't give him away for free.
That's why people just say, just tell him to go. It can't. It's impossible because you've got to say to him, right, you're going now. Where am I going? Are you going back to France, to Marseille? They'll give you 75 grand a week. He'll be like, okay, I'm 12 million down. Pay me up.
I just wonder, Lee, coming over to you and Ndombele, what are we going to do? Are we braced for the fact that he could still be here at the end of January, and we've got to deal with somebody like Jay says doesn't really want to be here, has never wanted to be here? What effect does that have on a dressing room? What effect is it having right now?
I reckon you could see, I think there's a link with Juventus on loan. I reckon you could see something like that where Paratici ends up being smart. He goes to like a Juventus on loan.
I agree.
And then we end up getting 2 players back in return, and somehow it cancels.
But even if he was to go there on loan and we don't get no one back in return, surely that's more. Whatever happens, surely it's beneficial right now to have him as far away from the football club as possible.
Yeah.
Are we all agreement on that?
Yeah,
absolutely. We will not give him away for nothing, but we will loan him out, and that's where he can build up his transfer value because he's worth nothing at the moment.
I must say, handcuffing to a treadmill.
I saw a rumor, and this is a rumor. I don't know if this is true. It's probably absolute BS. But somebody said, somebody was clearing out of his house or something, doing so, and the bin was full of McDonald's. I'm sure that's just nonsense, but
I'm sure.
I tell you what,
McDonald's milkshakes. Look,
ketchup. He probably sits there drinking ketchup, doesn't he?
Do you know what? Yeah, exactly. He's going in McDonald's ketchup.
It's a shame because we've all seen him in glimpses. He is wonderful.
He is wonderful. Is it the problem? I backed him, Jay, for 3 seasons. I had Jason every week ramming down my throat. He's not good enough. And I know Lee as well. You were a massive fan of him. It's so sad that we're talking about a player in this
Jamie from Tottenham Hotspur. Look, the thing is with Spurs fans, if I can as generalise, obviously we all Tottenham fans, but certainly the ones I talk to and interact with, lock him in McDonald's, rather than a treadmill, is that we are so, and I will use this word, we are so desperate for success. We're so desperate to be back at the top table and all that sort of stuff. When we sign a player like Ndombele, and Jason, one of our own, made a brilliant point on this the other day. How many of us actually watched Ndombele play for Lyon? How many? Probably watched him. If we're honest,
is it our job to do the due diligence though? I mean, I totally get what you're coming from.
No, it's not us. No, but we're craving for these signings.
We are.
Right?
You're right. We are.
But this is where it comes back to the recruitment part. Is that if Lyon are trying to get rid of him because of an attitude problem, yet he was only playing third-tier French football 2 seasons before his breakthrough season at Lyon, that we signed him for 65 million, gave him 200 grand a week. This guy's a French young lad who's 22, that's come into the country, don't speak English, don't know his surroundings. It's London. Let's be honest, London swallowed up a lot more mature people than a 22-year-old from France. And he's getting paid 200 grand a week. You don't really want to be there. And this is the problem that we've got. It is a massive problem. I would love more than anything for Ndombele to get to play the next game and be absolutely brilliant and just run the game. But he will never do that, in my opinion, in a Tottenham shirt. It just doesn't work for him.
I just think,
I was going to say, we just need to find him a move to a league, because I don't think another Premier League, even with Newcastle, the richest club in the world, like 50 times over, they're in a relegation fight. It doesn't fit Premier League. I don't think.
They've got one of them in St Maximan, haven't they? So,
exactly that. And even he is kind of, like you say, even he's a kind of a, blows hot and cold, shall we say?
I love him.
I'm the same, Joe. I'm a massive fan of him. I think
Ginola, he's the new Ginola. He's brilliant.
Yeah, Newcastle adore him up there.
Yeah, but you go and look at his statistics in the Premier League.
I know, they're terrible.
Out and what he's doing and how many chances he's creating and stuff. Like, this is the thing. It's like you see him score. How many goals he scored this season, for example? This is a guy. He doesn't run. I don't want to talk about St. Maximin. We're not him, but we need somebody who's going to run the game. And Dembele can't do that. Maybe he can do that. I agree with Ad. Maybe he can do that in Italy. Maybe he can. There is something cooking. Let's hope, right? The same cooking that Paratici chefing over. He's got the pots boiling, the frying pans are on, and hopefully he can get a deal that he's out. But the biggest news over the last 10 days with Tunga and Dembele is that he's been frozen out, and that hasn't happened before, is it?
No, not really.
I mean, if you look at him, and I don't want to hammer him and stuff like that, but the biggest thing for me was I can't remember what game it was. I think it was the Mura game. It was that was the first game that all of these players that we're talking about consistently had to show something to Conte, and they showed
prove
nothing.
I should be in your team.
Yeah. They showed nothing, and then he started against Liverpool and got hooked, and then he got hooked again. So you're just thinking, it's not about ability. And I think Lee makes a really good point. Spurs fans, most football fans, they get so overexcited. And you see it with these clips on Twitter, because somebody does a little step over and a little flick and a drag back and a great bit of skill. They're like, wow, he's the best player in the world. It's irrelevant. And Ndombele reminds me, I always say this, he reminds me of the kid at school who was unbelievable at 5-a-side, but couldn't play 11-a-side. Put him 11-a-side pitch, got kicked up.
It's like a street football he had.
Exactly.
A freestyle footballer. I bet he can do, 5,000, kick ups. And I don't know what these freestylers do. I'm showing my age here, but you know what I mean. Like, they can do all that amazing stuff.
He's amazing. Amazingly gifted player.
But when he actually plays the game, he can't do it. He can't.
It's mad when you read his stats. I mean, he's played. This is his stats for Spurs. For Spurs, 91 appearances since the summer of 2019, 10 goals, 9 assists.
It's more than that. I looked at. I think I looked. There was saying online.
That might be Premier League. I may say it might be Premier League.
It was the last 5 years, including Leon. He's only completed 90 minutes 47 times in 5 years.
It's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, again, if you just look at Premier League stats, and I've got my little
nine, wasn't it? Nine games.
63 appearances in the Premier League. He scored 6 goals and 5 assists. And just to put that into context, who I was talking about earlier, our friend Matt Doherty, happy birthday, Matt. 96 appearances. So granted, he's played 30 games more, but he scored 2 more goals and got double the assists than what Tunga Ndombele has. And this is a guy that costs 65 million and is meant to run the game.
And I think you need to add in there as well. The other thing you need to add in there as well. He has Conte as his manager now.
Yeah.
Whatever you think,
he's got the big name manager.
Yeah. He had Mourinho. Whatever you think of Mourinho, he's still historically one of the biggest managers in the world. Yeah. He had Pochettino for a bit. The big top managers haven't been able to get anything out of this guy.
Yeah.
I'm just conscious of time. We've dedicated a lot there to Ndombele. Jay, just want to come back round to you and just discuss with you Dele Alli. I think probably, Jay, the last time we had you on, Dele Alli was running things in a Spurs shirt, and quite literally now he's not running much, if I'm being honest with you at all now. He's not really getting on the pitch at all. Can you understand, Jay, the drop-off in Dele Alli and his Spurs career, and ultimately how crucial is it for him as well to get a move away during this January window?
Well, I was at the Liverpool game, and he was brilliant.
He played very well that game, I must say.
He was fantastic. And it was like, oh my God, he's back.
It was like the second coming, yeah.
He's back. And then subsequent games, I can't remember away at what he didn't really play, and then he played against Morecambe. Oh, by the way, if his back heel actually went in and didn't hit the bar, that would have been a worldie. But he was a get back to his slow, cumbersome, taking too much time on the ball. I love Dele Alli. I will always love Dele Alli. He brought us some amazing times at Spurs, and I don't think we should sell him. I really don't. I don't.
How much longer, Jay? Can we? I've been the same as you.
We should loan him. We should loan him.
I agree,
because he is absolute quality. And if he gets his vavavoom back and his love for the game, then he can come back to us reinvigorated. I think he's gone through a massive drop in confidence. Adam, you deal with players a lot more than I would know. I just know from the academy kids that I see. Oh, just quickly, King Hoddle said they should build a McDonald's on the site. There's one about 1 minute down the road, so from the training ground. So, but I see
that's not for Dele, by the way. I think that's back to
Ndombele. But I see this in young kids. They go through bad periods where they've never experienced it before. They've never experienced it. This is hugely new to Dele. He doesn't really know what to do. It's just confidence and self-belief. And if we can help him get a move, maybe to Pochettino, somebody who loves him, somebody who he was supposed to go to Poch.
Poch didn't want him.
He didn't.
Not at PSG. No, they fell out.
Really? Oh, okay. Well, he needs to go somewhere where he could go. Newcastle would be a wonderful move for somebody like Dele because they would absolutely love him, and then he can come back. I think a loan and a Premier League loan would be great if they can take his. He's on big wages as well.
I love your optimism, Jay. Go on. Over to you on Dele.
I think like Jay's point is right. I think if you look at Dele's career, it was always up. And he wanted to, his dream is to play at Barcelona. So he's just seeing his career, his trajectory going up, right? And he's thinking about playing for Spurs, love it here, great, things will go well, and then eventually I go on. Mentally, it's quite difficult to then all of a sudden you're not involved at all. You're not, to rediscover your thing. And you just think for his own sanity, he needs to go somewhere fresh, clear his head, start again. I've always said about Dele though, is that I think the problem is he's only good in one position, and when teams play 4-2-3-1, and he was a number 10 behind Kane, running in behind, with Eriksen supplying the balls, no one plays that anymore, and he can't play in a 4-3-3, either deep or in the front. I think he needs to rediscover a position for himself because he doesn't fit anywhere.
I don't know, Adam. Am I being more sinister to think that this is more than that? I just think he's just lost his love for the game. I watch him now, and he just doesn't seem as engaged as what he used to be. Again, I know you love Dele.
If you've not played for 3 years, your love for the game goes. I speak to players, and they're just training, and it's just like they go. You're just like a spare part. So you're going in. I just
wonder, under Nuno, again, granted, it probably wasn't his position. But he did get game time. He got the first 4 or 5 games. And again, I understand that, playing a player out of this position isn't great. And again, I will back up the fact that under Conte, he has been played out of his position a number of times. And again, I accept that isn't great for any player. But Lee, I don't know whether you feel the same as me. Again, I've been the same as you. I've loved Dele Alli. I've wanted it to work. I would again back him to go on loan. I stuck up for him with Mourinho as well. I felt Mourinho was a big influence as to why it wasn't working. We then get rid of Mourinho. He then comes back into the team under Ryan Mason. He then starts under Nuno. But the Dele Alli I've seen over the last 6 to 10 months, for me, is not engaged in the game that we all love. And again, I would love it to work for Dele, and I love Jay's sentiment. And Jay, listen, I hope when we're doing this podcast in a year's time, I hope you're right. I hope Dele has returned from his loan and he's back to the Dele Alli that we know. But for me, I just think we're past that now. And it's a real shame. But I don't know what your thoughts are on that very quickly.
No, I mean, everybody that listens and watches us on Last Word on Spurs knows I'm a Dele fan. I mean, it's the statistics, we can talk about them all day long, but they haven't been around for probably 3 years now. I think Stuart Roper in the comments nailed on the head. Unfortunately for Dele, he peaked at 21 years old, and that's the issue with talented young players when they peak. a very, very, very good mentor friend of mine once said about business that if you peak when you're 25, when you're 30, when you're 35, where else? If you're at your peak, there's only one way you're going, and that's down. You can't go up. So in Dele's head, he's still on the trajectory of going up. Like, where can I go? PSG, Barcelona, Manchester City, Real Madrid. But the reality is, where are you going to go? Newcastle, Everton, maybe. Aston Villa would be probably a fantastic move for him with Steven Gerrard. But the point being, it's a lower move than Tottenham Hotspur. No best training ground, no best stadium, blah, 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 the wages that you're on. He's 25. He's 25 and he peaked when he was 22, maybe 23, but definitely 22. His stats were a joke. They're an absolute joke. 51 goals, 34 assists in the Premier League in 180 appearances. That is unbelievable goal return, unbelievable assist return. Brilliant player. But again, I agree with JR. I would loan him because I still think he's an asset there. And, you know, it's crazy. He's only 2 years. He turns 26 in April, right? It's a couple of months away.
It's nothing, is it? It's nothing.
He's 2.5 years younger than Kane. You know, and you look at Kane as some, you know, real, you know, senior stalwart player, one of the best strikers in the world. But Dele's only a couple of years younger than him, like from an age perspective. Does that make sense? But Dele just feels like he's so much more younger than that. So I'm not trying to fight for Dele. I'm not trying to say that he should. He absolutely needs to move from Tottenham Hotspur Football Club for his own sake, for everybody. But I still think that if he did move, and I'll give you my point in a second, like Jay said, on loan, I think we can get him back. Look at Jesse Lingard. We've been linked with him and we'd all have him. A lot of people will say, yeah, we'll take Jesse on a foot. He had the same thing. He went through the same situation. Young player, thrust into the mixer, playing for his boyhood club. I know Tottenham isn't Dele's boyhood club per se, but, you know, very young, thrust into the mix. And then he went through a bad patch. People in life go through bad patches, right? People in business, people in football, people in sport go through bad patches. It's not all plain sailing. Dele's gone through a massively bad patch. He needs to change something in his life, whether or not that's his management team, whether or not that's, you know, his love for football, whether he takes a break, whether or not he takes a different club, whatever it is, that's up to Dele. That's nothing. It's none of my business. But from a Tottenham fan's perspective, I'd love to see him back. I'd love to. Can he get back? I don't know, but yeah. I'd love to see him back because him scoring 2 goals at Wembley against Real Madrid was one of my all-time memories that I'll never forget. I mean, we all did. It was absolutely mental, and he is part of that. He's a part.
Yeah, you can't forget the past. You can't forget the past.
I'd love to get him back, but like the whole sentimental thing with Eriksen, and even with Bale, I can't even believe I'm saying this, but even with Bale, the whole sentimental thing with Eriksen, maybe the Sergio Auriers and stuff. We have to move on. We have to move on to a new regime, and part of moving on some of these players is to move out the old Pochettino players. And I said this on social media a couple of weeks ago, even under Conte, and we said this under Jose, we're starting 8 players that played heavily or signed for Pochettino still. He left the football club, 3 years ago now, 2.5 years ago. We're still playing. The lion's share of the first team is still who was a stalwart or who played under Poch. That has to change. Hence the transfer window, hence the bloodthirsty signings and everything that we've talked about tonight. But I do love Dele, and I wish him all the best, but he needs to move to get him back and where he needs to be. And look, to be fair, and I will say this, if he doesn't want to play football anymore and he wants to be with Boohoo and do it, that's totally fine. That is
not a problem at all. Not a problem at all. Listen, do what you want to do.
Can't do that at Tottenham, picking up 40-odd million for the next 2-3 years or whatever he's going to be doing, when we need players that are going to play.
Absolutely. Guys, I'm going to save you the chat on Matt Doherty. I'm not going to do that to you at all. We are going to go for our final break of the show for our listeners that are on audio. For watching us on YouTube, nearly 900 of you watching us live on a non-game match day reaction. How about that, eh? We had the North London Derby cancelled. Thank you so much for incredible support. Right, to close the show, we actually have got a game, believe it or not, that we're meant to be playing, of course, on this Wednesday.
Who thinks it's going to be bend off? Who thinks Leicester's going to bend it off?
Can't be now. They've had two off.
Hopefully not. And didn't Leicester have their game postponed as well this week? They've had their game also postponed. So listen, we need this game to play because God knows we don't play all these games. Yeah, I mean at this rate we'll be in catching distance of City if this carries on.
If we win all our games now, we'll be above City.
I work with Leicester City, so I'm going to phone them tomorrow and make sure that they're
put a good word
okay.
in, Jay. Make sure they turn up, or at least
He's
13 of them.
he's promised me hospitality for the last game, so I might.
I'm going Wednesday as well.
Oh yeah,
there you go.
Well, I'm going to speak to him tomorrow. So, Tom,
Well,
if you
when
want
you do
to call
when you
in.
do that, Jay, can you make 900 phone calls after that? Let all these people know if they're coming or not. Cheers. Right, okay. Spurs are likely to be about some key players, of course, this game against Leicester. Leicester are a funny team. At the start of the season, they were being tipped for big things again under Brendan Rodgers. I think it's fair to say Leicester haven't had the season that they planned. And we're facing a side that really, at the moment, you'd probably say Leicester are going to be a mid-table side. They've got some talented individuals, and we know they're missing players. For Spurs, we're also missing players. Now, of course, we went into the game against Arsenal with Heung-min Son, of course, being out at the moment. Eric Dyer, who's still got that slight muscular injury, unsure at this stage whether he will be fit enough to play against Leicester. Christian Romero, again, another one who's now back in training. Unsure if he'll be fit enough to feature in this game. And Steven Bergwijn, who, according to Conte, isn't 100% fit, but of course those links to Ajax are still not going away. Let's come to you, Jay, to start on this one for this game against Leicester. You feel because of, again, Tottenham, this postponement against Arsenal, we do need to get points on the board. Are you confident going away to Leicester where, listen, it's always a tough place to go? And under Brendan Rodgers this season, it has been topsy-turvy there. Can we get a result for you up there?
Okay, so as I said, I work with them. I speak to my contact regularly. They've got a lot of injuries and serious injuries. So, yeah, I'll tell him to go and get Tielemans as well. So, I have said to him
that was the most uninspiring voice of getting a player. Yeah, I'll see what I can do.
No. I don't deal with that. I sell them furniture. I'm not.
Oh, right, okay.
I'm not doing anything else. So with Leicester, with Vardy has always been a big thorn in our side, as Mahrez was. Vardy's out. I think most of their defence is out.
Iheanacho, a number of players out.
They do have Daka. I don't know if he's injured still.
Well, apparently he's potentially could be back fit for this one, but they are without Ricardo Pereira, Wesley Fofana, Jamie Vardy, Johnny Evans. They're definitely not available. Daniel Amati can't play this game through suspension. So, on that basis, Jay, listen.
And then Ndidi's in, and Ndidi and Iheanacho are in Africa.
Yep.
So, look, we've got a great chance. We beat them last game of the season up there last year. They're a very good team. It's a great atmosphere up at the Leicester Stadium. They've got their clappers. They'll be up. They haven't played for ages. It's under the lights. It will be a tough game. But if we bring our A game and we have Kane fit and a couple of the other guys coming back, Romero, I think, is training. Fingers crossed we can get a result up there, because it is a very weakened Leicester team. Even if they've got Maddison and Tielemans, they haven't got Vardy, and Vardy is there. It's like us playing without Kane, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Lee, coming over to you, it's funny because I know the barometer on this show that we've often said, if Spurs can get their recruitment like Leicester, we're doing bloody well. But isn't it funny that the one season we've said about this, and Leicester are really having a difficult season? What have you made personally of Leicester so far? And are you surprised this season how it hasn't just kind of worked so far for Brendan Rodgers? Bearing in mind, of course, this season he has also been linked with the Manchester United job. I'm wondering what you think that's had any bearing at all on the way Leicester have played this season.
Well, look, I think he's a brilliant manager, first and foremost, and I think everybody goes through kind of ups and downs or dips in form and that sort of stuff. You look at the amount of games that they've played the same as us, so they've got 4 games in hand on the teams above them. If you look at if they won, which they won't, because one of their games in hand is against us, right? But if they won their 4 games in hand, you're going to they'll be on the same points as West Ham. They'll be in the top 4. So, this is why the Premier League integrity of the Premier League at the moment is ridiculous, because you've got so many different games and all that sort of stuff that are going on or not going on. What's ridiculous to report is their last game was a home win against Liverpool in the league on the 28th of December.
That is crazy.
They have not played a game for 19 days. They've got no cup football in between there other than maybe the FA Cup. Yeah. So they are. In fact, they played a fantastic game, didn't they, in the FA Cup? But they ain't played a Premier League game since the 28th of December against Liverpool. Maddison is on good form. Tielemans is a very good player. Rate him if we could get him, it'd be amazing for our squad. But Jay just reeled off, Jamie Vardy, you just reeled off all of their injuries. Their problem isn't scoring goals. They scored 31 goals. Their issue is conceding goals. They have got a problem that year, and that Fofana was outstanding for them last season. Forgive me, I think it might have been his first season, so maybe he's having a bit of a second season issue. Now he's obviously injured. Johnny Evans is injured. All the players you just said, Marty can't play this, that, and the other. So I think if Tottenham bring their A game, as Jay said, but if we go after them, I think we get a result. I think the problem that we've got at the moment is if we start not going after them. I mean, the amount of chances that we've created since Antonio Conte joined the football club is ridiculous. It's where it should be. Don't get me wrong, but it's ridiculous comparing what we were doing before. I think everybody's forgot. So just quickly remind you, as the beautiful Chris Callan always reminds us as well in the group, we wasn't even having a shot on target under Nuno. We wasn't having a shot on target. Now we're having, on average, 6, 7, 8 shots on target a game, 16, 17, 18 opportunities. And I think if we go up to the King Power, Filbert Street, as if you're old enough to remember it to be that, if we go up to the new Filbert Street and bring our attack and football, I think we'll win the football match. So I'll go with I don't know if we're doing predictions, we'll do them afterwards, but I think that we always have a decent game against Leicester, and Leicester always have a decent game. It's normally a good game to watch if you're a neutral. Unfortunately, for Spurs fans, we're not neutrals, right?
No, I mean, I know Leicester. Listen, we as Spurs, we tend to piss off a lot of clubs, and we seem to piss off their supporters. So we're another club that amongst the list that they can't stand. As to come over to you, bearing in mind we're talking on a day, and I know many will get excited by this. Obviously, at West Ham got beat. Obviously, we've seen them go down to Leeds. How important is it, Ads, to win to try and again bridge that gap? And also, I think we can. Correct me if I'm wrong here, guys. I do believe we can actually go above Arsenal as well, providing we do beat Leicester City on Wednesday. So again, from a mental perspective, when we are going to hopefully play Arsenal, we'll be above them. Does that make a difference? Because at some point, Ads, we've got to start taking advantage of these games in hand, and this is a crucial one of them, isn't it?
It's massive. It's a massive game. Look, every game, if you want to get in the top 4, is almost like a must-win. You can't not win games.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Leicester, a decent team. I didn't know they haven't played for that long. They'll probably, you'd like to think that they might be a bit undercooked, because you can't train for that long.
Lacking game fitness.
I don't think, as much as we wanted to play today, right? I don't think it's actually a really bad thing. And, Dyer, frankly, has been a big miss for us. At centre-back, hopefully he'll be back, and hopefully Reguilon will also be back as well. And we've had a little bit of a rest and a little bit of time to recover. So I think, I think his name was Raj, made a really good point earlier, just basically saying about we need to start the game better because we haven't the last few games.
Yep.
I don't think we've started games well for about 2.5 years. We are terrible.
No. Yes. Very slow. Very slow. Yeah.
Every game is terrible. We never come out fast, and it's a massive problem for us. And we need to rectify that, really. Yeah. And I think, as I said, not playing the game today could be a little bit of a blessing for Dyer, maybe for Kane to have a little bit of a rest, for Conte to work with them a bit more. They'll be a bit undercooked. They've got a lot of players out. I'm quite confident. And it's a massive game, And like you say, the chance to go above Arsenal, to get pretty tight to West Ham. I don't know what the gap is there, given the amount of games we've got. It puts us,
4 points there from Joe. Yeah.
Yes, if we go,
it is really important. It is important.
We'd go a point behind them if we won with 3 games in hand. It puts you in an unbelievable position.
Ridiculous, isn't it, Ad? It's
ridiculous. And I do wonder, some of the stuff that Conte's been saying recently, I wonder whether some of what he's saying is trying to get under the skin of the players as well, as in a bit of a you need to prove to me that actually you are better than what I'm, So I don't quite know, and I think it's come across. Maybe some people think it's all a bit doom and gloom and him being negative and he wants out already and stuff like that. But I think he's just being quite smart with what he's saying. I'm going to the game. I'll try and give you an insight because I'm meeting one of the Leicester players in the morning. So maybe I'll give him some lasagna when I meet him and to spread around the squad.
We've got Jay dropping furniture. We've got you over there having a chat with the directors.
So, like Arsenal, do anything you can to win. I mean, It's interesting actually because that games in hand thing, and I say this on the group, and I am, I try to be Mr. Positive all the time. It's just kind of in my nature, and it is a massive huge capital letters, listeners and viewers, right? But if we win, and this is where this crazy train keeps on rolling. If we win our games in hand, we actually go above Chelsea. I mean, it's absolutely
the reality with the game in hand, because people on the chat again, it's not about that. You got to win, does it? I get that. We're not going to win all of our games in hand.
No, I agree.
We're Tottenham Hotspur, and we'll never do that, right? Okay, but
3 are away.
Conte's it.
We've got enough. We've got actually enough of a buffer to lose one or to win 2, draw 2. It's not. That's an important fact, mate. All 4, we don't have to win all 4. We can win 2 and draw 2, or whatever it might be.
Like Philip says there on screen, lads, it's Spurs, and I know he's kind of tongue in cheek with that, and obviously a bit of seriousness as well, because we all think it. But this is the mentality that also needs to change as well, right? Do you know what I mean? We need to go and believe. We need to go to believe that we can go to Leicester like we did the last game of the season and smash them. There's no reason why we can't. They've got injuries out galore, like you've just read out. There's no reason why we can't go out there and get. I don't care if it's 1-0. Go get the points. Come back down the road. The problem that we've got is on the weekend we go to Chelsea, and that is an absolute nightmare. But if you think about it, out of them 4 games in hand, this is not even in the round. This is games in hand. We've got to play Burnley, Brighton, Leicester, and Arsenal. I would back ourselves to get 10 points out of that, maybe get a draw. I don't think we'll lose against Arsenal at home. I don't think we should be losing or will lose at Burnley.
They've just lost Chris Wood as well. I mean, we don't know if they're going to get to place.
We may lose points at Leicester, but the way the fixtures have now fallen, Leicester's our next game. So we're fresh. We like all the way that's happened. So maybe we would say, that Leicester away game's tough, but now we're going into it a bit more kind of buoyant. And if I agree with you, Ed, we won't pick up 12 points out of 12 there, but we could definitely pick up, 9 or 10 points out of that. And
which is fine.
Banging fourth place, banging fourth.
2 points per game, which should always be our target.
That's a good point.
Mate. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And also when you say when you talk about if you don't win them all, you don't have to win them all, but the one you have to win is the one against Arsenal, because that's a 6-point switch, right? So you can probably lose to Chelsea, win 3 of those, make sure you always beat Arsenal, and then we're in a really strong position.
Yeah. Guys.
I think, sorry, just about to add, and there's some really good comments that don't get carried away, and I get all of that, and it is Spurs, and we are Spursy, and all that sort of stuff, and we won't win every single game, but we're 6th in the table, having a really disjointed season. With don't forget, I've just said it. Under Nuno, we weren't even having a shot on target. We were losing to the likes of Manchester United 3-0 at home. They're woeful, man.
Well, just seen that. I must make that point as well. This weekend we've all seen United drop points. United dropping 2 points.
Exactly.
West Ham
have
got to take
the best season they've ever had in their lives, and we can go above them comfortably with them games in hand. So it is important that we win them games, and it's important that we get them games on. And even like you said, 2 points per game out of them 4. Even if we got 8 points out of that lot, that still puts us comfortably 4th. Comfortably.
Yeah. Man, when you say that,
if we get 8 points out of them 12, it's a decent position to be in. If we could look, obviously it's a nightmare if you go and lose 3 games on the trot. But Conte hasn't even lost the Premier League game yet, boys, listeners, viewers. He hasn't lost the game yet. He's still on the. I know the Chelsea results an arsehole, right? But he is holds the record and still is going for it again at Leicester. If he stays unbeaten at Leicester, that's 9 games. His first 9 games in the. No manager's ever done more than 7. He's now on 9.
Yeah, listen, great point. Listen, we're gonna
real deal, people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just quickly, I know you're trying to wrap it up, but those Chelsea games, I was at the Chelsea game, and we played really well. We should have won that game.
We didn't. You tweeted that. We did not.
I was there, mate. I was there, and I thought we played really well.
Second half of Jay over the course of the game, or second half?
I'd say second half.
I think second. The only thing I would say is I agree. Second half we played okay. My only thing about that is Chelsea. They could afford to take that foot off the gas. They were at the game once.
They were having a smoke and just relaxing.
Yeah, but it was all 3 goals were flukes.
That's
Okay.
classic Tottenham, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's
That is
classic Spurs. That's
Yeah.
correct.
Exactly. It's
but
not
over-
It's not doom and gloom. It's not doom and
Let him
gloom.
wrap it up. This thing's costing marriages here.
So
Love it.
basically,
I've got
when we get our 4 signings of the tier 1 from Lee, we'll then win the league. We'll come second.
But again, just sorry, Rick. I know you do want to wrap up, but just going on that point, right? Every club that Antonio Conte has walked into, just because it's Tottenham and it's our club, and just because it's Levy, that's what's making everybody nervous. But every club that Antonio Conte has walked into, he has not only won stuff, he's transformed them. Right? He has gone into Juventus 10th in the league or 9th in the league, and then following seasons won the league. He's done it with Chelsea, 10th in the league, coming bang, bang, bang. You know, at the end of the day, if we already think it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. Like, it's not. We all run businesses, right? If you walked in and you told the rest of your staff and the rest, all your team and your clients, no, it ain't going to happen. No, we can't do this. You ain't going to have a company. You're not going to have a business.
Yeah,
we need to change the mentality of what we're doing as well. And I know we get emotional about it, and I know it's disappointing. And you know, it ruins me. It ruins me on my weekends. It ruins my time with my family. It's what Tottenham does to you. But at the end of the day, this guy is the real deal. They are working hard behind the scenes. We're trying to get some people in. We just ran through all the games that we've got. Even who would have thought? And I'll leave you with this. Who would have thought that we would be in a proper shout of a top 4 with Ben Davis, Davinson Sanchez, and Eric Dyer at the back?
No,
now you go and sleep on that, people, viewers and listeners, and then come back to me. And don't tell me that we can't get in the top 4 with a Romero back in another edition. Because if we can get in the top 4 with them 3 at the back, we can do anything.
You made me want to rip my shirt off and beat my chest, Lee. I love it.
Let's do it, baby.
Out of interest, we'll close the show on 2 things. Number 1, Leicester prediction, and then we'll just see who believes we can get top 4. Let's start with you, Jay. Prediction for Leicester, and can Spurs get the top 4?
Chance of us getting into the top 4, I think, are good. So I would say we've got a 50 to 60% chance, unless it goes all wrong. Against Leicester, I never like to predict that game. We've won there 6-0, 7-1, something like that. Ridiculous. And we've lost a couple. So let's go for, I think I saw a comment on here before, 3-1. 3-1
Spurs. Okay. And top 4, Jay?
Yeah, I think we've got a really good chance. So 60% chance of doing it. That's just because of the situation we're in and the manager we've got. And I think Arsenal was running scared because they didn't even want to play us, because they know that game is massive, as Adam said. Let's
come to you next, Ad. Prediction for Leicester?
Win every game and we get top 4, boys.
It's true.
Is that a prediction or a fact?
I think. The last time I was on this show, I couldn't say it, but I'm going to do it. I think we're going to get top 4. I'm in that position now. I'm going to go.
Come on.
I'm going to go 2-0 Leicester.
2 Leicester or 2 Spurs?
No, Spurs to win.
I love that. Top 4, 2-0 to Leicester. That would sum us up, wouldn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Lee, let's close it with you. What are you going for? Prediction, and can Spurs make that top 4?
Yeah, I mean, it is always, like I said, a bit of a ding-dong game. When you look at the last 5 results, it's swings, them, us, whatever. So it's quite hard to predict. I'm going to back us, though. I think that we need to carry on the run. And I think we'll win 2-1. We will concede, unfortunately, but I think we'll win 2-1. And absolutely, we can get the top 4. I believe. I'm on the crazy train, and I absolutely believe
it's in our hands now. It's actually
totally in our hands. Yeah. And if we go, we need to get back to the mentality of when Conte first come. It's only been that first Chelsea game and the transfer window that has changed everybody's minds, or not everybody. I can't say that. Most people's minds. Nothing has changed. We're still working hard. We're still going to get signings in. We're still the team. We're still unbeaten in the league under Conte. We're going to do the same against Leicester. We're going to beat them, and we're going to be in the top 4 in the next 2-3 games. We're going to be in the top 4. I'm absolutely adamant. Rick, most importantly, mate, you don't ever get to say what's your prediction, and what do you think? Do you think that
I
we're
think
going
we'll
to
go
get the
Leicester.
top four? I want to hear it from you, Rich.
Yeah, no, I think we'll go to Leicester and win convincingly 3-1. I think we'll go there and beat them 3-1. I do honestly think, and this is not to put a down, I do think, honestly, top four for me is the difference between what Spurs do in this January window. If we can get out the likes of Ndombele and Dele on loan and get those players out that don't want to be here, that's as crucial to me as making the right signings. So maybe we have to get another striker and an alternative to Harry Kane, because the problem is we know with Harry, as much as we love him, he does have an injury in him every single season. So the problem we've got now, we've got Son out. If we lose Kane, we're in a very difficult position. So I think it is imperative Spurs do look to bring in an alternative striker and to also beef up that midfield if possible. And again, I would like to see Adama Traore here. He gives us another option.
Do you think we'll get top four at the end of the season?
With the current squad, I think it's touch and go. I think we're making those. I think we're making those additions.
Top four.
We can make top four. Yes, we can make top four.
So just on record on this show, by the way, Rick is saying with Eric Dyer as a centre back, we're going to get top four. Yeah,
listen,
Ricky, it's not about transfers. What I said at the beginning, it's about belief. It is all about belief. And getting new players.
But an injury to Harry Kane and this completely...
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm only jesting a bit.
Remember,
honestly.
You remember Neres has gone to Shakhtar.
Yeah.
Which means Ajax have the money now to buy Bergwijn, which means we will then have the money to buy a backup striker. It's all that knock-on effect.
Well, listen, I do agree, Jay. This is about a domino effect. So I just hope Spurs are ready for those dominoes.
Remember what Ad said earlier? Ad's the expert on this. Remember what he said earlier, and I made the analogy about like buying a house. You're in a chain of events. One thing goes and then the rest of it goes. As soon as, like Jay, what you're saying there, as soon as something becomes available, the rest of the chain can start to move. That's what will happen. And Ad said it earlier. No deal gets done in January early doors. It is, towards the end of it. You've got we've got 2 weeks left of brilliant games, hopefully for us. Let's go and win at Leicester and then challenge ourselves to get something out of the Chelsea game. Try and get some, even if it's a freaking bore 0-0 draw. What riles me about Chelsea, just quickly, is they rock up to Man City and they get one shot on target against Man City, and they look really average. And then they play against us and they just look like European champions.
It's levels, though.
No, I know it is. I know.
They were playing Man City, who are up there.
I know, but that's what actually my point. My point is that we all got off we're shit, we're in school going wrong, but we're playing the European champions. We're nowhere near that level. They should be battering us, realistically.
Well, I went to the Chelsea away game, and I went with Conte. We're going to go there. We're on a great run. We might nick a draw. And I think it was just we're still, we're still
where we was. Yeah.
I think that it was a bit of a reality check. And I think that's what's happened. It was a bit like
everybody, and I agree with that, but everybody forgets the Liverpool at home game. Now that would have been a better reality check, wouldn't it? Liverpool are fantastic as well, but we're at home, so it's not as hard as an away game.
The difference is, and I hate saying this, Chelsea always turn up against us without fail. And they always turn up in big games, and without fail.
Agreed.
Liverpool, 100%. We can, it's different. Chelsea against us always turn up. It's so frustrating.
Well, listen, we have got a big month still ahead for Tottenham. We are still in the FA Cup. We are still in a top four battle. Let me say my thanks to Jay. Jay, thanks for coming back on and keeping us real and keeping us level-headed, mate. It's been a pleasure having you back on. Thank you so much. To the wonderful Adam Hotspur ads, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Lovely to have you on and bringing us, again, some reality in terms of the Premier League loopholes that we face and a January window that we can't wait now to see what the ending of it is. So we're really excited. And to Lee McQueen, Lee, thanks as always. I'm not sure if this is going to test our marriages, this show, but we'll wait to see the final outcome of it. You are back with me. In case you've forgotten this week, we've got a very special. We've got you back on this week for a transfer special.
Have we?
We've got Martin Lipton joining us.
We have the brilliant
Martin Lipton joining us. So guys, we'll be putting those questions out to you in a couple of days. Get your questions in for that show. And of course, we're back for instant reaction to Spurs against Leicester. Well, Jay and Adam are going to be hopefully doing some dealings and wheeling and dealing for us on different aspects of its furniture. If it's signings or directors, you'll hear it first. Guys, thank you as always. Nearly over 900 of you watching us live tonight. Honestly, thanks so much for all the support. I think Last One, I suppose, I've just smashed through 10,000 subscribers on YouTube in the space of just 4 months. So again, thank you so much for all your incredible support. It doesn't go unnoticed. Listen, you guys make the show what it is. The wonderful guests, the audience we've got here is superb. But most importantly, guys, please keep safe, keep well.
Oh, Rick, should we do a quick plug? Because I never get to plug anything, do I?
Oh,
Other than
sorry.
my Twitter handle.
I must say, before we do end, one of our own, Lee McQueen, has got a very, very special announcement. Lee, hand it over to you just to close the show.
Yeah, so just quickly, so Chris, I don't know if you're pulling my leg in the comments earlier. He said earlier, I don't know how Lee didn't win the Apprentice. Well, I did, mate. Of course I won. I ain't going to turn up to a show like that and not win it, right? So I won back in 2008, and the new Apprentice is on. And we've created a show actually called In the Line of Hire, where each week we're going to be reviewing each episode of The Apprentice with previous winners of the actual show. So people that have been there, won it and got the T-shirt. We've got brilliant shows lined up for the next 11 weeks. Please do join in. If you want to tune in, you can follow me, obviously, on all the socials, and you'll get me from there. But yeah, if you enjoy it, if you don't enjoy The Apprentice, do not tune in, because it'll be absolutely woeful for you. But if you love The Apprentice, you love everything that goes around that, please tune in to In the Line of Hire. And follow me on the socials, and you'll get all the promo stuff going on. You can tune in via Audio Boom and Spotify and YouTube and all of the likes. But it's brand new. So we launched it last week. We had Karina, who is the current champion, on it last week. Karina Lepore. She was absolutely brilliant. I fully expect it to be a really good show, Rick.
Absolutely. Listen, it's going to be great. It's weird even seeing Lee not talk about football for an hour. It's the most bizarre thing, if you know him as well as I do. To not see him talk about football is bizarre, but honestly, a great show. Make sure you check that series out. It's going to be absolutely superb. And I say some wonderful guests to come. There you go. Lee McQueen's releasing podcast. Like I said, it's been a wonderful show.
Anything can happen.
Anything can happen. From Jay, from Adam, from Liam, myself, guys, keep safe, keep well. We are back with you on Wednesday for instant reaction to Spurs, hopefully smashing Leicester. And as always, come on, you Spurs.